Welcome back to That's Rich. I'm Richie and this is Jim. Jim Connolly, who runs this beautiful spot, the Piano Kitchen, as both a piano technician and a performer and artist in his own right. I first became acquainted with Jim way back in the high school days when I first heard his incredible music.
How long ago was that, Rich?
Oh man, about 15 years ago I would say, so not too long. We were invited to see Lit Moon's production of Hamlet as, actually I think I might have been in just 8th grade at the time, but I heard Jim's rather inspired, wonderful mix of acoustic and electronic instruments. He sampled live piano and even a saw that he played, and my mind was blown. And then later, you orchestrated, no really, big inspiration to me, and you orchestrated the then Dos Pueblos production of Midsummer Night's Dream with a similar setup, and it was really just a cool window in what could be done in the world of music. And now we're going to talk about songwriting and what can be done in the world of songcraft and just inspired, often improvised music in general. And so, now that I've ranted, what are you holding here, Jim? What is this?
It's a banjo.
Oh my God.
But it's a weird banjo. Let's see if I can get it to shine into the camera.
It's beautiful.
There we go.
And is this, yeah, go ahead.
But this guy, Terry Mead, who lives in the mountains up above San Luis Obispo, I had an idea to make a resonator. This is like what goes on a dobro, but it's called a resonator. A resonator banjo. And when we talked on the phone, he said no, because he said, we don't know how it's going to turn out. You might hate how it sounds. And I said, well, as long as it doesn't turn out sounding like a regular banjo, then I'm going to love it. And as it turns out, it's like a magical, I mean, this is like the only one of a kind that he's ever made. But
so he made that? Wow.
He made this, and it just turned out so beautifully on its own. And this is, the top is redwood, which is really unusual for the top to an instrument.
And so you dabble in a variety of instruments. What is it about the banjo that draws you in, or that you find most expressive about it?
I like that you can carry it around.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bass player, and mostly upright bass. And for 40 years or so, I played an instrument that you couldn't throw in the car and take a walk on the beach, or you couldn't bring to a friend's house.
Yeah, yeah.
And stuff like that tends to get to be a drag after a while. The other thing is, I wanted to start writing songs, and I did not want to play guitar, because there's just a lot of people that are doing that already. Yeah. And,
you whip out a guitar at a party, people are like, oh boy, you know. But a banjo, people are like,
well,
whoa.
I like the banjo is a little bit of an outlaw instrument, and it's made for fucking around with, because part of the thing is that with banjo you change the tuning a lot. So you can invent your own tunings. You can change anything about how it's tuned is made to be changed. In fact, that's the normal thing. There is a standard kind of banjo tuning, but I mean, half of what I do, more than half of what I do, is in something else.
Jim has a project, Toy Shop Ghost, that is largely banjo-centric. And how would you describe the creative journey you've gone on with the banjo, or with Toy Shop Ghost in general?
At first, it was, I wanted to make this sound.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I really, and especially I started playing more traditional banjo, which is plunkier. So it plunk, 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 plunk. And I just wanted to, it was just such a sad and noble sound that I was really drawn to it. And I decided that I was gonna not learn the right way to play it. And so for the first year or so, I treated it like I had found it washed up on the beach.
How brilliant.
I made a bunch of tunings for it, and I made up some ways of playing it. And once I had developed like a friendship with it, then I stuck my nose into more traditional stuff, like, you know, more traditional banjo playing. But so it started with banjo first, and then I thought once I got really comfortable with banjo, I thought, hey, I could write songs and I could sing them, and this would be a good instrument to do it with. I had always loved, I don't know if there's stuff for you that's like this, but singing was always one of those things where I loved doing it, but I sucked at it.
Oh, definitely guilty of that.
And then I thought, oh, I know a really good vocal coach. What would happen if I got with Agatha Karubi? I don't know if you know Agatha, but she went to Juilliard, and she is from an opera background, but she really understands non-opera type singing. Like, I think she worked with Katy Perry a little bit, which is why a lot of people say that I sound like Katy Perry. Katy and I were on the same trajectory.
Yeah.
I'm a little, we're on a parallel path.
Right.
I'm a step or two lower. Let's say
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
But
She went to Dos Pueblos, fun fact, so the connections are very real.
but
very deep.
Was that like way before you?
Only a couple years before me. Maybe 4.
So you used to hang out with Katy Perry in the lunchroom, right?
Yes,
Because
yeah. A lot
this
of
is-
gossip there.
yeah.
Anyways, shout out to Katy Perry, local musician, kind of obscure, but she's coming up in the world. And then, well, before I hear a song, I actually I really love the mentality of going in, doing everything, not wrong, but you're not trying to do the right way.
Right.
And I feel like that's so many people's, maybe their obstacle, or at least the hindrance with learning a music is like, well, they're too scared to mess up. Like, I can't, oh God, it's like a terrifying thing.
Yeah,
And-
please. I mean,
yeah.
Richie didn't mean. Can you just apologize?
So, I'm so sorry. That was atonal, discordant.
There.
But it's beautiful.
I just trumped your piano playing.
Why do you approach the banjo or other arts that way?
You might say with a beginner's mind. At its best. It's funny. When punk rock came along, is this before you were born?
I
Punk
think
rock?
so. Late 70s.
I was so angry
Slightly
because
before.
I had tried so hard to be a good musician, and then there's this music that came along that was really compelling, really fun to listen to, and they were all like, fuck learning the instrument, fuck being good at it, fuck this, and no to this, and no to this, and it was still really cool to listen to, but it made me so frustrated because I thought, what happened to caring about what you did? What happened to craft and skill?
Yeah.
And that this was me when I was 15.
Of course.
I talked
Yeah.
about that a lot. So, but there's something cool about that because it sets you free. Like with the upright bass, I grew up having really, really good teachers, and I totally benefited from that in all sorts of great ways. But the trajectory for me in the bass was I spent a long time trying to do all the right things for smart people with the instrument, and I learned that, and I didn't get free with that instrument until I worked past that point. So it was like, you know nothing, you learn all the right ways, and then if you take it to the next step, the next dimension, then you can start to let go of all those right ways. And that's one way to get free with something, meaning I can approach it, you can approach it with an open mind. But the other way is you just pick it up and say, I found this on the beach, washed up. I wonder if it makes a sound.
Here's something.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And
That was like you were going somewhere.
that was a song that Katy Perry song.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
If I actually knew a Katy Perry song, I would start singing it right now.
Right, of
So,
course.
oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
But I really wanted that with the banjo, and I wanted that as an adult was to make my own way with something, and I do that with the piano because I had piano lessons for a little bit when I was little, but when I started working with Lit Moon like 25 years ago, I didn't have a playing relationship with the piano, but I started using it right away, and you sit down and you try and make friends with it and try and find out, and basically if you're not going to because I wasn't going to take lessons at that point, because I was using it as a composer, I just spent time with it. And that's really all it was spend time, make music, make it really simple. And it can start out as simple as like what Chan Marshall does, Cat Power, who's coming to town. You know, like...
Hey, Chan Marshall.
You know, that's her piano playing is like, it's like the version of two fingers on a typewriter.
No, exactly.
She's so simple,
Yes.
but it's so beautiful, and it's just so appropriate. So things can start out on a really simple method.
I love that you hear music everywhere. It's
Oh,
truly
and I love that I hear
inspiring.
that sound now. What happened? They lost interest.
All
Or-
beauty is fleeting. Yeah, no, it's very inspiring, and I think a beginner's mindset is where most of us ought to begin, really, or keep staying in that mindset. I just love that you approach these physical bodies as something or someone to get to know and spend time with, instead of what I think most people see it as, almost like a wall they need to jump over, and then they'll be there. And it's like, no, you meet it like right down here.
Yeah.
Let's get to know each other. Like
Like a
you're not
person
going to
you
hurt
meet.
me, I'm not going to hurt you.
Right.
Very careful. I think that's really, really great. Well, do you feel
Yeah. Play
inspired to play something?
For the record, the camera just took a dive. That was not a 6.0.
Pray for
Maybe
Rich
the
Crest.
Yeah, this might be the last broadcast from what will soon become known as the island of California.
The big one's coming. You heard it here first.
Surrounded by ocean, far, far from land, under a big cloud, that's where I stand. Surrounded by money, worshipped by birds, just eating frosting, making up words. If I wake up, will you help me find home? The world we live in is just fine, mostly. But you know there's more. Climb north, climb back, climb towards, climb, floating and drifting through the tops of the trees, sipping on champagne, chatting with bees. They need our help now. They plan an attack. The neighbors are bossy and on the wrong track. If you wake up, I will help you find home. The world we live in is just fine, but you know there's more. Climb north, climb back, climb towards, climb, climb north, climb back, climb towards, climb.
Very nice.
Thank you.
want to talk a bit about the song for just a few, or
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Well, what's fun is that people that are watching this, Katy Perry,
Chan
shout
Marshall.
out, Chan Marshall, they just had they listened to some words, and they were fairly allegorical, as you might say, and a little bit vague. And so I would say that whatever you thought the song was about, you're absolutely right.
Good job.
And, yeah,
you got
good
it.
job. But it's also possible that I was thinking of something completely different, and that's kind of one of the, if there's a method that I feel attracted to in songwriting, it's writing songs that are not literal. And because just like in theater, I don't like literal theater. Generally not. I like theater that's more open-ended, that where, 5 people walk out of the show and they all had a different experience because it was a collection of resonant images that meant something to the people that watched it. Instead of somebody cutting up your dinner for you and putting it in your mouth and helping you chew it.
Yeah.
Which is
Yes.
what some kinds of literal theater and some kinds of literal songwriting are like, where they'll tell you about the song, and then they'll play the song, and they'll say the same thing in the song that they said when they told you about the song.
It's a very generous act as a creator to give your audience the power of interpretation. You love to provoke an individual response and offer up a way in.
So the song was about dreams. I have bad dreams all the time, and then I'll wake up after the bad dream, and I'll think, oh, that was a fucked up world. I'm glad I live in this world. And then I immediately go back to sleep and try and get back into that fucked up dream.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And I don't know why. There's something wrong with me, and I want to go back to that world for some weird reason. And so I just wanted to write a song about dreams and how the world that we live in there is so real, and it can make the real world, if this is the real world. By the way, this is not the real world.
No. Doesn't get old.
No, this is the interweb, and but it can make the real world pale in comparison. And so you could argue, in a Matrix kind of way, that the dreams are the real thing, and this is something in between the real stuff. But the real question is, why do people go back to? Because I can't be the only one. But why do people go back to bad dreams and try and fix them?
I think it's a yearning for the imagination. Just like I had this power to freely imagine anything, and even if things were worse, man, the things I saw, the feelings I felt, they were boundless.
Yeah.
And also just you were in control. I want to go back to a state of being able to fix the wrongs that I had the power to do, and then the real world, it's like, can't do anything about this or that or all those bills, But back in dream world, there's a possibility that you could. Can I ask, without spoiling anything, because Jim has scored Midsummer for a couple theater companies now, and what are you doing with this one? What are you doing differently, and how does the creative process go?
The normal method for me and Lit Moon and John, who's the director, John Blondell, is that we try and do something different than we did last time. Not only with instrumentation, but with how the music fits with the text, the physicality, and stuff like that. So, and then the other funny thing is we'll decide before the show, this is how it's going to go, because it's different. That's better. It sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And then we'll do something different than that. So it'll change a couple times. That's all I know, is if I do it, it'll change a couple times. And what I end up doing on that day will be a result of a lot of improvising and a lot of throwing out of good ideas and throwing out of bad ideas. And because that's the same way that we build a scene, scenes with Lit Moon, generally something like that.
Well, I'm just glad to be in a town that actually can nurture and foster some invention and imagination. Even if it's not always up on the surface, there is a need and a desire for it. Beautiful. Well, that's a nice note to end on, I suppose. So thank you so much for coming, and have a great rest of your day.